Hello everyone. Welcome to today's session on Scale Your Agile Testing with BDD in Jira with QTM4J. My name is Disha Thakkar and I'll be your host today. Before I hand it off to the speaker, let me explain some housekeeping items. First, this event is being recorded and a recorded version of this webinar will be available. So how can you get access to the recording? Don't worry, once the recording is ready, you'll receive an email with instructions on how to access it. Now, second, for the best viewing experience, please close out any unnecessary applications that may be running in the background so that your internet bandwidth is optimized. Last and the most important, if you experience any technical issues, please send a note through the question field that is located beneath the panels. I'll be on hand to help as quickly as possible. Now, at the same time, our responses can also be read in the same Q&A panel. This is going to be an insightful session, so let's keep your questions and suggestions coming in. Please post your questions, feedback, or even your experiences with BDD in the same Q&A panel button that is in the bottom. Feel free to ask as many questions and share information as many as you like, and we'll be there to give reply to most of them during this session. Moving on to our topic. How can create a best or great software? Creating a great software with the best quality, it doesn't happen by magic or by some miracle. It also does not happen with only great development code or by a developer's expertise. So how can you achieve a great software with the best quality? That is achieved by communication. And one of the ways to achieve this through communication is through BDD, that is behavior driven development. So what is BDD? How does it help achieve better quality without sacrificing the speed of your release cycle? If you are using Jira to track and manage your projects, can you add BDD to this mix? To answer all these questions, we have our subject matter expert, Rupal. Rupal is a business strategist at QMetry. She comes with a lot of experience in the test management domain and business insights. With over 12 years of work experience in the testing and automation domain, her strength lies in knowing the exact needs of the customer. And based on that, she is known to offer them the best of class solutions through the QMetry range of products. Now, from past few years, she has taken a deep interest in Atlassian ecosystem and the Atlassian marketplace apps. She has been involved in many successful Atlassian marketplace app implementations for enterprises like PwC, Jeffries, Cox, H&M, Nexum, and many more. At this time, I would like to turn over to Rupal to take you all on this ride to BDD. Over to you, Rupal.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Disha. Hello, everybody. I'm extremely excited to speak with you about one of the subjects that I discuss very often with different organizations, the QA teams and the development teams. So let's proceed. One of the very common references that I bring up very recently is Squid Games, right? Long before the Squid Games references of red, green, also in the development team perspective, refactor, were very common to developers of agile-centric organizations that have been pursuing deeply TDD and BDD approach. With specific emphasis on DevOps and continuous testing, TDD as well as BDD has become more relevant in current times, especially while the digital transformation initiatives have pushed the products and services organizations to deploy these across different platforms, and hence resulting into testing the products and services across different platforms of the sort of, say, mobile, web, as well relevant microservices. And henceforth, the test first offer, that offers better coverage, which certainly offers customer-centric approach to development teams, while also staying relevant in competitive space. Now, though a little redundant, but it becomes very vital to understand and start with what is BDD. While the test driven development, which is TDD, has the perspective of a developer, behavior driven development is more of an agile as a user approach. The BDD focuses in translating stories to tests for the tech as well as non-tech teams to start more frequently adopting to using the same terms as the end users or business users. Now, what this does in turn is it reduces the ambiguity that usually arises when you use the technical counterpart of very difficult terms that coding language offers before actually writing the script or writing the development code. For example, Gherkin is basically used to write your BDD test scenarios. Now, Gherkin usually offers a very simple English-like syntax, which is much simpler and also easier than the difficult to comprehend technical counterpart. Hence, if you also look at BDD from the references or the definition perspective, behavior-driven development basically is an iteration, a process, or the base of agile software development that usually encourages or has collaboration as the foundation among different team members across the software development project. Right? So BDD basically relies on a stronger collaboration, simpler understanding of business needs. Now, what makes BDD special within the agile testing community is it incorporates or inherently inculcates human readable narrative of any software user story. So that translates any business story, business requirement to a software user story that is comprehensible by different stakeholders to simplify the needs and reduce the defects, hence at the design stage itself. Okay? Now, if you look at the Gherkin context, the way what you're seeing on the screen is the given when then format, right? It becomes very, very easy to understand the context, the business context with which you actually lay out your software design. What are the iterations or the scope that you need to consider, whenever something happens under the given context, then what should be the outcome? As simple as it can get. So for example, one of the use cases that I'm going to actually use in my demonstration as well is the ATM withdrawal. So for example, given a certain amount of money in my account, when I withdraw money, then I get this much amount of money. Okay? So that's how simple it becomes to understand the use case, the iterations or business implications of different of the perspective of business context and listed outcomes linked to each of the business perspective of that context. What is a BDD process? If you look at any behavioral driven development process, it would ideally cover 3 stepping stones, right? So the first one starts at exploring. When you are exploring at the early part of understanding your business requirement, to begin, select a minor upcoming change to the system, which is a user story. Here, discussing a concrete example of the new functionality and being able to collaborate in order to explore, discover, and then agree on details of what is expected to be done. That is the first step to the BDD process. The next and the vital one is to document the outcomes of the first phase of exploration or the discovery. The next one is implementing. You not only agree and document onto the findings of different stakeholders and the different perspectives that you need to cover, you also very well document and implement and hence implement the behavior described by each documented example, beginning with an automated test to guide code development. Now, why would organizations across the globe focus on BDD? If you look at motives of implementing BDD, as I mentioned earlier, the strongest foundation of BDD or to make the most of BDD and hence inherently agile development processes is collaboration. Involvement of all stakeholders, may it be developers, early part of the project management life cycle or software development life cycle, business analysts, testers. Involvement of all the stakeholders from the start and throughout the process fosters a very good communication and participation. That is where you cover, it brings the maximum coverage of any functional requirement or business requirement from that perspective. The second one would be user-centric approach. Now, BDD prioritizes the customer's vision. As we stated or understood earlier, BDD basically brings in the user's perspective, the end users or the business user's perspective. The user's perspective on how the product should behave is the key emphasis of BDD development process. This user centricity basically eliminates all the what ifs that in turn results in shorter development life cycle and hence reduces the delays and offers timely delivery of the products or the releases. The end goal is improved ROI. So any any process, any framework that you implement, at the end of it, the heart of it is business benefits. Because BDD ensures automation of redundant tasks and builds structured scenarios, it authors test scenarios in Gherkin, as we stated earlier, which is extremely easy to understand. And hence, businesses can focus on client needs and deliver outcomes faster, minimizing the lag time between processes, reducing ambiguity. Now, if you look at the overall focus of where BDD is in terms of test management, right? So if you look at software development lifecycle, we understood that it basically inculcates shift left. Shift left is an ideology that focuses on shifting the focus of both the development and the testing teams towards the early part of the development lifecycle to reduce issues or bugs and enable better, faster, and more efficient software coding or software building process. The second one is to enable all the team members to participate with the much easier approach, translation of the business use cases into Gherkin-based authoring of your scenarios or your requirements, enables all the team members, even business stakeholders or product experts like me, to participate into the overall test management processes or as well as software development processes. How BDD is done in test management tool? Certainly through Gherkin editor. And how would you ideally sync your features directly from version controls tool? So to explain this, I'll redirect to the slide next to this one, which will explain how deeply all the stakeholders, starting from your business analyst working or ideating on a business user story to a development team member, translating that into a code to an automation engineer that will actually be automating this at a later stage in terms of test assets and iteratively executing this to bring in end-to-end coverage. And how it integrates different tools that enables all of these individual stakeholders, as well gives end-to-end traceability to business stakeholders or business leaders in terms of different matrices. And so there are different version control tools like Git, GitLab, Bitbucket, and that enables BDD, and different test management tools that also offers integrations with this BDD-driven version control systems to ensure there is end-to-end connectivity, everybody is on the same page, and the collaboration that is at the heart of BDD is enabled and ensured. Now, before we move on to seeing BDD in action within the test management ecosystem, I would like to go ahead and talk a little bit about QMetry for Jira, because that's where I'm going to highlight and show you how BDD is enabled within the Jira Atlassian Jira ecosystem, and the testing teams are able to contribute along with the other business stakeholders, collaborate better, and ensure the gist of BDD is covered in QMetry for Jira within the Jira software itself. So QMetry for Jira basically is an app in the Atlassian ecosystem that offers optimum value for testing teams. It is a best test management to help make Jira a full ALM tool from requirements to test case management. It is a one-stop solution because you don't apply multiple apps to achieve end-to-end test management. It basically covers everything as an app, inclusive of requirements, test cases, executions, BDD, automation integration, end-to-end test management solution within it itself. It is first to offer exploratory testing within the Atlassian marketplace, and it brings in the best of both the approaches, testing approaches. If you know a little bit about test management applications within the Atlassian ecosystem, it offers the best of both the worlds as a hybrid as well as native approach. It offers a hybrid approach, which is a combination of native Jira as well as the layered testing experience within QMetry for Jira. We as a team offer end-to-end support, starting from evaluation to onboarding of QMetry for Jira as a continued customer. And whenever you're actually looking at test management solution in terms of ROI, we offer the best. On the forefront itself, you see a cost reduction or ROI upfront from somewhere around 24% to 35%. And there are exhaustive features, enterprise-grade features that are offered in this app within the Atlassian ecosystem, may it be permission-based test management, exploratory testing, test case organization, versioning, data parameterization, advanced reporting, so on and so forth. And at the heart of it is BDD. Right? So that was in brief about what the product is and what we're going to see today. And here are some of our customers across different verticals that vouch for QMetry for Jira and its capabilities to enable BDD and test management within the Atlassian ecosystem. Okay? So this was the one that I was talking about. So if you look at BDD, collaboration, easy discovery, early fixing, identifying and fixing of risk, and a very shorter period between the iterations that you make into your overall agile development lifecycle. So if you see, QMetry for Jira resides within the Jira ecosystem. It offers you the Gherkin-based editor, which is directly integrated in real time with Bitbucket, GitHub, as well as GitLab. And you can trigger the execution once the discover, code, and automation part is completed in your BDD iteration. The execution can be triggered from your CI/CD tool, or you can use webhooks to trigger the execution. And the results are populated back in QMetry for Jira for traceability on your Jira stories. And it offers you a great visibility, great real-time visibility in terms of test coverage for faster releases. Right? So let's quickly, without any further ado, let's quickly jump on to the product demonstration. I'll quickly pause the screen for a little bit and come back to the session. So here I have gone ahead and reshared my screen. Let me know if you see my screen well. So we are right now.
We can see.
Thank you for confirmation, Disha. So we are right now in the Jira instance, which under the apps tag has QMetry for Jira installed. If you'd be interested, you can let us know, and our product expert can give you a quick know-how of installing, configuring, and onboarding QMetry for Jira. Very, very simple. But I've already installed and configured QMetry for Jira. So I see the tab here. You can click onto it, and you would quickly be able to see different tabs. So as I mentioned earlier, QMetry for Jira offers end-to-end test management capability within the Jira ecosystem, enterprise grid test management with user control, organizing of test assets, reusability, as well as extendability, integration with multiple automation, CI/CD tools, and APIs to extend QMetry for Jira beyond Jira to other tools as well, just in case needed, right? So let me go ahead and start with the shift left stage. with the focus on shift left, where you would actually start with focusing on a particular user story or a business requirement, right? So I am in this particular project, and I would just go ahead and create a story. Say I want to ATM. This is my typical story in Jira. And once you've installed QMetry and configured your version control tool, Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub, you would be able to see under your Jira story itself, the BDD tab. So test case or acceptance criteria, you'd be able to link your existing test cases of QMetry. If you'd want to see, edit, author, or push or pull updates to your scenarios, you can pull up the BDD tab under a requirement. And if you see here, I have the capability to configure a repository directly with this requirement, right? So let me just expand this view and use as much of the inventory. So as soon as I expand the view, it'll allow me to select whichever version control tool I would want to tie up here. So I would say Bitbucket, which has a repository that I've already integrated. The integration is very simple, completely UI based, no specific user rights required. And I've selected the branch. You can select a folder under that particular branch. I have it under the root branch itself. So I'll just go ahead and say banking feature. And I would say pull. So what this will do is it'll actually pull my feature file from that particular folder. If you see here, it very much offers you the Gherkin editor. You can also start authoring your scenarios here directly. And you have 3 scenarios here under the ATM transaction as my feature file. So if you see here, I have my Bitbucket as well open here. And under the master folder, master repository, I have my feature file here that actually duplicates or replicates what I'm seeing here. Now, let me go ahead and make some changes here. Let me remove the story linkages. Right, and let me change some of the syntax here. So it not only lets the team members be on the same page in terms of collaboration, it also offers a real-time updates from your Jira story itself, right? So from here, you're actually you'd be able to author your scenarios, and in line to that, your automation engineer can then go ahead and replicate that in the automation script. So I'm just going to go ahead and push the update. And once the updates have been pushed, be able to see the changes made here. Now, how this is basically translated into my automation script is I have Jenkins configured here, and I'd be able to see, I'd be able to go ahead and show that to here. But what I want to first draw your attention to is whatever changes that I've made to my feature file here, as a Jira user or a business analyst working on a user story, that has been replicated in real time in my Bitbucket right away, right? And I have integrated my Jenkins instance to my QMetry for Jira project. And I would go ahead and show you under the configuration. Let me go ahead and re-log in. You can link or set up the integration with your Jenkins to QMetry for Jira. It's very, very simple. And for additional security, QMetry for Jira also offers the capabilities to, because you would be updating assets to link automation API. If you're updating an existing test cycle or existing set of test cases, test cycle, you can provide the relevant information. Here I'm creating a new one by the name of banking demo. I see the details under the test cycle name. So let me just go here and say build now. So I can go ahead and directly launch the execution of my feature file and linked automation script and it'll automatically create a test cycle. Let's go ahead and see the test cycle that's been created with the build number appended here, right? So if I go back to QMetry, I've not set up the linkage to any story. If you remember, we had delisted the linkage to the story. As a next step, as the second use case, I'll show you how you can set up the linkage between a story and your BDD feature file, and automation results will be populated for traceability on that particular story itself. So if I go to my automation, this is under QMetry for Jira, and under the history, I will see the list of all the executions performed here. So this is the latest one. If you see here, it's been launched right now. It's provided all the details here. This is my test cycle that was created automatically. If I open this test cycle in QMetry is a combination of all the, all the test assets, test cases that you'd want to execute against different test environments or platforms. This test cycle is actually created automatically by running or triggering the execution from Jenkins. And here, let me show you all the test cases that are part of this scenario listed automatically, right? So if you see here, withdraw more money, withdraw less money. These are the three scenarios, and this is a scenario outline, withdraw money from account, have been created and listed here. And the steps listed here. Okay. So that's how QMetry automatically, without any human interference, enables collaboration and basically offers ease of authoring your user stories right here within your Jira user story page, enables you to start incorporating BDD using the Gherkin editor. It also offers a real-time integration with your version control tools so that different stakeholders working in different tools can collaborate, quickly iterate, and identify bugs ahead in the development lifecycle for quicker releases. The second use case that I wanted to quickly highlight here was, let me go back here. Let me go to my story that we were just working on. So the second one, this one is when we just directly create test cases without actually setting up the traceability. Now the best of test management comes into picture when you have set up the traceability, when you can identify the test coverage to be able to gauge the overall go-to a GTM for your releases or the softwares. So here we would say story key PM 50. You can also likewise, add an existing test case by adding @test case key and provide the existing test case details to be able to reuse an existing test case, right? So from here, let me push the updates. So I've just pushed the reference to the user story, and let me show you reflection of that in my version control tool right away. Now you would also see the reference to, so if you see here, that's been listed. So whatever test cases be reflected would be linked to this particular story. So you'd also see a quick reference to your repository to which this particular test cases are listed, the branch, as well as folder path. It's on the root folder, so I don't see any specific folder path here. One thing that I would go ahead and show you once we trigger the execution is the list of test cases linked here, right? So let's go ahead, let me close this, go to Jenkins and trigger the execution. So I would say build now and trigger the execution for all the scenarios in my script, the feature file. So if I go to console output, let me move this. It is stating that the test cycle is being successfully executed with the build number. So if I go back here, let me quickly refresh this. So the aim of offering this within your user story itself is to also offer end-to-end traceability. So there are a lot of reports that QMetry offers to enable testing team members to start ideating at the story stage itself about the possible test cases. A user story would ideally, in this particular context, in the test first context, would translate into tests. So how would you ideally translate it quickly into tests? And once they have been translated, that is automated, you trigger the executions, view the reflection of that onto your story, gauge the test coverage, the traceability, and gauge the health of your overall release that you're working on. So if you see here, from the traceability perspective, the test cases as well are reflected in real time on your story once the linkage has been set up. Right? So that's how QMetry very strongly within the Jira ecosystem enables behavior-driven development for testing teams across the globe. That was a very brief walkthrough of a lot more that QMetry for Jira can do. If you'd be interested, let us know, and we would, would be glad to walk you through end-to-end product demonstration of QMetry for Jira with the other aspects of test management. That'd be it from my end, Disha.
Thank you, Rupal. This wraps up our session. So with this, I want to give everyone an opportunity to submit your questions if you have any. Now, if you have a question that you have been itching to ask or any insight that you would like to share, please go ahead and insert it into the Q&A window, and we shall address it as they come in. So let's wait for a minute or so for people to at least enter their questions. Rupal, it looks like we have got our first question. So let me just read one over that we just got. Now, this question is from Will, and the question states that will BDD slow the dev cycle or delay releases?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you, Will, for asking that one. I think that's actually an oxymoron, very, 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 very legit question in the mind of all the teams that would actually want to implement BDD or are in the initial stages of implementing BDD, right? I would actually answer this question with this idiom, well begin is half done, right? See, basically with test first approach, we are shifting where developers spend time in development cycle. Although the team spends additional time in reviewing and test authoring before the coding or development begins, more time is saved by identifying issues beforehand, resulting in not having a long testing stage or a rework cycle, right? So you're actually at this, in the shift left, you've shifted your focus of your development team members along with your testing team members to actually sit with your business stakeholders, discuss, explore, ideate, and agree on what needs to be built, what are the possible test test scenarios that needs to be considered, and you're actually creating your software development life cycle that has a more stabilized QA cycle after the coding is completed, right? So that is reduced, and in turn, a lot of rework has actually been planned ahead of you start coding. So that will in turn reduce a lot of post coding delay that you would see, and hence BDD will certainly not slow down the development cycle, irrespective to the usual belief. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Rupal, next question is from Ozgur. I'm really sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. Now the question is, hi, what happens when there is a Git conflict?
I'm sorry, you said Git lock? conflict?
No. What happens when
Yes.
there is a Git conflict? If there is a conflict with Git.
Right. See, basically, the integrations are made at the API level, right? So whenever there is a conflict with the Git, the Qmetry's APIs are handled in a way that the administrator will certainly get the notification. The relevant team members that are marked under that respective role within Qmetry who will get notified about the conflict, right? But that's a very that's an interesting question, Oscar. If I'm pronouncing it right, let me get back to you with a detailed approach on how it will be handled. This is my belief of working with Qmetry so far, but let me get back to you with a better response, exact response on how that will be handled. Right?
Sure, we can mail the answer
Sure.
once the webinar is done. It looks like we have another question here, and that is from Steve. So, what is a feature file in BDD?
Right. So, Steve, see, basically, a feature file is used in BDD perspective to offer a detailed explanation or a high level explanation of what you would ideally cover in AUT, right? Application under test. So if you look at a feature file, it covers a description of your feature, implementation of whatever your current test script might be. It also covers your test scenario and scenario outline. So a scenario is basically how an outcome, expected outcome would look like, and what are the steps for a specific test case that will be covered, right? And a scenario outline is basically parameterization, number of different test data under which you'd want to test your test scenario under, right? Your feature file will comprise of a typical example that we had seen earlier in terms of given, when, then format. So that's how your feature file would look like. It basically is a detailed or higher level explanation of what your application that you're testing and a particular business aspect that you want to cover, the context, the given, when, then format, and the test case that it'll translate into, and the iterations of the test case that you would cover under different test data or data sets. Right? I hope that was not too technical, but that's the gist of a feature file. Let me know if you have any subsequent question to this.
Okay. Another question is from Julie. How BDD helps in shift left?
Oh, that's that's again a very interesting question. So, see, basically, BDD and shift left are absolutely complementary to each other, as BDD is integral to agile, which also inculcates shift left. Let's first try to understand both the concepts, right? What is BDD and what is shift left, and how it complements each other. So shift left test is basically a technique of software testing or a system testing in which testing occurs earlier in the life cycle, right? Where it's moved to the left of the project development or the software development timeline. It is the first half of the maxim where you would say test early and test often. On the other hand, as I explained during the session, BDD is intended to test an application's behavior from the end user's perspective. Now, BDD incorporates shift-left approaches such as example mapping or specifications by examples to ensure that the teams understand what they are doing and specifically concentrate on producing the right things. What I mean by example mapping is, say, BDD lets you explore and concentrate on the smallest aspects of behavior or of a business story or a user story. When you're looking at your user story at such detailed level, you're able to identify the basis of desired behavior of the business stakeholder or the end user. And hence you're able to defer the rest of it, whatever is unnecessary or out of scope. This in turn will help in preventing major defects from entering in your sprint and help you basically avoid any last minute defect in terms of production. right? So both are basically very, very complementary to each other and inculcate, BDD deeply inculcates shift left testing. I hope that answered your question.
Let's wait for a minute or so for any further questions. Looks like we have addressed quite a few. It looks like we don't have any more questions. So thanks everyone. Now we would we'd love to hear from you all. And in case if you have any further or any more questions, you can reach out to us on info@qmetry.com. Now also you will receive an email to download this recording. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Till then, take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.